Greetings to all in the love and light of the one infinite creator. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups on the L&L research page shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook page, Facebook group, and we do meet on Zoom twice a week at the times shown on your screen. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or to join our Zoom sessions. Anyone who is interested and available is welcome to join. Just contact us at the email address shown on your screen. We'll add you to our mailing list, and we send out weekly updates to let you know what we're doing along with the Zoom links. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of our new podcast series, as well as Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty, as well as Gary and Trish and Austin from the L&L Research Channeling team. If you're watching any of these on TV, they are divided into chapters, so you can skip from one chapter to the next if you don't want to watch the whole thing all the way through. If you're watching on your computer, you should be able to find a list of topics and timestamps below also, so you can click on the timestamps to skip through chapters as you are interested. And today we are once again blessed to be joined by Mr. Jim McCarty for some informal conversation and some questions and answers about the law of one and how to live in our daily lives. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing very well. It's a gorgeous day here in Louisville, Kentucky. Got an azure blue sky and the sun shining brightly, and got an inch of rain last night. My gardens are jumping for joy. Flower
Nice.
by the way.
I forget, have you had much rain, or has it been pretty hot and dry the last 2-3 weeks?
We've had a good deal of rain in August, but it came at the beginning and the end of the month. We had 4 inches of rain on the 3rd of August, 2 inches of rain at the end, and in between hardly any rain at all. So it was a mixed bag there. Last night, though, I said we've got an inch. So we're in good shape right now.
Nice. Well, it's good to hear, and so appreciate your being here as always. I had a couple questions that I wanted to start with, and then I do see a number of questions in the chat window, so I want to get to those as soon as possible. Did want to remind folks who are on the Zoom call with us, if you have a question that you'd like to ask Jim, go ahead, type it in the chat window, and we will just go in the order that we see the questions there. So I do see Linda and Alice first, and then I believe Guillermo after that. Jim, I did have one question for you about your relationship with objects. Apparently, according to your Camelot journal, you have names for a lot of the objects that you use. Like, I believe the name for your car is Stanley, and the name for your lawnmower is Venus. What's up with that? Any particular reason for that?
I just look at them as beings. Carla named the car Stanley. At the time that she was alive, she picked that car out. It's a 2005 Subaru, and I still drive it because those are just beautiful cars. I mean, she did a great job picking out that car. And at that time, I was driving a truck. Sybil is the name of the truck, but it's out of action now. It served me well for 31 years, but it has a crack in the frame along the passenger side, where there's supposed to be 6 inches of metal, there's only half an inch. So when they discovered that at Big O Tires, they said, drive it home and then don't move it again. So it's my outdoor tool shed. And my backpack blower is, let's see, what is my backpack? Blow hard. And my trimmer is Whiplash. And let's see, what else we got here? That's about it for the moment. I named some of my plants in the house. I have, it's a arrowhead root or duckfoot vine. And the old one that I thought had died was such a beautiful being, I named it Gloria. And just as it seemed to be dying, I cut a stem off of it and put it in water, and it rooted. And so that's Glorietta. But now Gloria has come back to life, and I've got both of them in the house. And I brought all my houseplants in yesterday, early this year. And then I've got the philodendron here. It's a monster. It's a monstera, philodendron monstera. So I've got a few of my plants that are named too, but not too many of them. I do have a name for my goldfish out in the pond. He's Walter Jr. Walter lived to be 22 years old. Walter Jr. now is 23 years old and about 23 inches long. And so
Wow.
I name things here and there, not everything, but I
Well, so
like
how do you
names.
come up with the names? I'm especially interested about the names for what we consider inanimate objects. How do you come up with the names? And are you of the understanding belief that these inanimate objects have some form of consciousness?
Oh, I'm sure everything has some form of consciousness. Everything's part of the creator. I just like to have names, to associate with the different tools, especially when I have my lawn service. I name my backpack blower and my trimmer and my mower. And don't think I ever had a name though for my hedge clippers. I guess I could call them hedgers. I don't know. Uh, just something fun to do.
That is fascinating. That's such a cool thing. And does your house have a name also? Do you have a name for your house?
Well, I don't have exactly a name for it, but I think it is this third density being because before we even moved here, we asked Rob, we were in Cumming, Georgia at that time, trying to get Don closer to his work as an Eastern Airlines pilot based in Atlanta. So we asked Rob about the metaphysical quality of the house, and they said that it was angelically blessed before we even moved here. And so I think that over all the years that we've been here, if 40 years for me, all of the people that have come here for our public channeling meditations, our workshops, our homecomings have made that blessing even more and more. And Ross said that plants and animals and spaces or places could become inspirited and become third density beings. And so I think that that's probably happening with this house.
It's so beautiful. Well, that house clearly needs a name. Maybe we can like start up a little
Yeah,
name the
you'd think
house
I did.
contest or something.
You would think that I would have a name for it by now, but I haven't done that yet.
Oh, maybe it's just too sacred a place that it's beyond names. Yeah. I do remember our friends in the Confederation have said at least a few times that naming is really kind of a third density thing, and there's
Right. Your
lots of
people just have a
Confederation
fondness for
entities that
naming.
don't have names. Well, thank you for sharing that. I had one other question, and this is probably going to sound a little bit silly and perhaps even a little bit disrespectful. But I have a question about the use of the word an, A-N. I've noticed many, many times in channeling transcripts where Ra and Quo both use the word an before words that we would usually say before, like they say an unique or an helpful way or an hologram. Using the L&L search engine, I just did an exact search for the phrase "and unique," and it's been said more than 100 times in channeling transcripts over the years. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on why, if these entities are millions of years ahead of us in evolution, why they haven't figured out this basic English grammar yet, what words to use. Any ideas on that? Is that something you've noticed, picked up on?
Oh yeah, I've noticed it for sure, and I've picked up on it myself. I think it's kind of like a food you eat and you like. I first heard it, of course, during the raw contact, and I think it just became a habit. Well, if they say it that way, I'll do that too. Actually, to me, it feels better. Anharmonic convergence or uh, an entity such as yourself, or
That's interesting. And it happens with all the other channels too, right? It's not just when you're
yeah.
channeling, right?
Well, I think Ra's part of Quo, and I think also it's Hatan and Latwi and Oxal and the whole gang of Confederation entities. I think have that same quality of using the word "and," where most of us would say "a."
Right, right. Yeah, at the beginning, I just thought it was a typographical error or somebody misheard the recordings. But after seeing it so many times in print, I realized it must have
Yeah.
been intentional. Renat, I see your hand up. Did you have a clarification question on this subject?
It's not a question, it's a reply. At least some of it is British. The British do add H to the vowel family, so you would see it in England. So when you say most of it in the English language, actually, yes, most English-speaking people speak maybe American English, but British English is kind of a different animal in many ways. It's confusing.
Well, I guess that would
Yeah.
make sense if they were speaking to a British audience, or if these Confederation entities were British somehow. But
Yeah,
in this
that's what I was
context, it
thinking.
seems a little out of place.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking. I was wondering why the choice, but maybe because British English is the original family of and English is of course the derivation of other languages, but derivation. But yeah, there were. So I was thinking. Anyways, H is a vowel in the British English.
Okay.
It
Yeah, I will
might come.
definitely reflect on this a little bit further. Thank you for sharing that. I did want to go straight to the questions in the chat window. So I do see Linda, Alice, Guillermo up first. Linda, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Sure. First of all, hi, Jim. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good to see you three together.
Okay, the question I have is a little bit convoluted, so please forgive me for that. Sue-Ann and I were talking about the donning of the magical personality when we're doing visualization meditations. And are you okay?
I just see a salamander crawling around on the couch across the room from me. I don't know how it got in the house.
You will rescue the poor thing?
Oh, wow.
Go rescue him and we'll.
I probably can't catch it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Now it's out of sight.
Oh,
But it was on
he
one of
It's
the
an
house
amphibious
plants I brought
invasion.
in.
Following the plants inside.
I brought all my house plants in yesterday. I'll bet it came in with one of those.
Oh, nice.
Well, so it's got part of its environment in here.
Carry on.
Yes,
Okay.
go on.
So anyway, we're talking about donning the magical personality in terms of visualizing in your meditations. And, you know, the way I do it is by the drawing on of the Reiki symbols and saying the Reiki words. And then afterwards I do the body brush down. And to me, that is my bringing it on and then taking it off. Now, when Jonathan does his Gaia earth healing meditation on Tuesdays and Saturdays, Sue Wen was wondering if his invocation could be considered donning the magical personality and the ringing of the bell afterwards be considered the taking off of the personality. Now, I was wondering if intent worked or if it's a little bit deeper than that.
I think that there are various ways of doing it. You've mentioned some. Doing the vanishing ritual lesser pentagram, you actually invoke it by bringing it down from what would see the heavens to your being. Then you release it at the end. I think that whatever you describe to yourself and desire and intend is a way that you can do it. Because you know, magic is something that is also personal to each entity. So that magical personality can be invoked by you in however way you wish, and then it can be released in whatever way you choose.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Alice, did you have a question you wanted to ask? Would you like to unmute your mic?
Yes. Thank you, Linda. That was fascinating. I wondered about that. Hi, Jim. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
My question is something I've been wondering about for a while, and it's about bodies, fourth density bodies. Are they, I haven't been able to find anything in the transcripts. Are they physical? Are they similar to what we wear now? You know, we're wearing clothing now as far as I can tell, but so I was just curious if you had run across that.
I don't have specific information on it, just in general. Ross suggested that the fourth density body is more densely packed with light, even though in our terms of weight and mass, it would be lighter than our bodies. But in terms of the light from which all is made by the Creator, it is denser. And I would guess then that as you go higher in the densities, they would be more light there, because you're getting closer and closer to unity with the Creator.
Does that answer your question, Alice? Did you have any follow-ups?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Guillermo, did you have a question you wanted to ask? And then I have Jasmine, Kathy, and Adam after that.
Yes. First of all, do you hear me properly?
Yep, sounds great.
All right. Nice to talk to all of you and to you, Jim. My question was about the violet ray activation. I don't recall explicitly which passage it was of the channeling sessions with Ra, but he did mention it in my memory as a passport to intelligent infinity that ought to be activated with the utmost care. So now I'm going to make some loose associations. Some of them, maybe most of them, meaningless. But I was tying it in part to Jesus when you ask about Jesus as a fourth density wanderer, which a lot of people are for fourth density, but obviously he had some sort of activation that other fourth density wanderers did not have. And I wrote a lot of things, but the image I was having in my mind was the violet ray being the sum of all the energetic rays, but also in its counterpart in terms of densities, the last octave being the first of the the last density being the first of the following densities octave as some sort of intersection. So I was wondering if maybe the violet densities are like a realm of their own, interconnecting all the octaves, or or like the great way in the tarot cards, being not something to be attained, but being the configuration itself of the archetypal mind. So 777s. That's my that's my question.
The violet ray has, I think, a greater and greater manifestation for each entity as you proceed through the densities. In our third density here, we can see the violet ray as being in combination with the red ray as being a protective shell that keeps whatever nature of our health or disease or realization or lack of realization in place until we work on it to be healed or to be accelerated. And I think one way that we can accelerate it is if we look at the indigo ray as being intelligent energy. That is a beginning contact with the creator that we experience in one way or another. A beginning of the feeling of the unity with the creator, which we're all seeking on our spiritual paths. Then if we activate the violet ray, that is the contact with intelligent infinity, the sacred nature of each moment, the beingness of the creator that you are now feeling. Now, I think that as you get into fourth density and fifth and sixth and so forth, then you're getting closer and closer to the complete unification of your self, your individual seeming separate self with the creation and the creator, so that at the eighth level or octave, as you mentioned, everything coalesces into unity with the one infinite creator, so that all choices, all entities that have been made throughout the billions of years of evolution become a means by which the creator can know itself. It's the harvest of the creator. And then the whole process begins again, as you mentioned, through the densities.
Any follow-up questions on that, Guillermo?
Oh, I will ponder upon that, but I do appreciate our exchange. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking. I believe Jasmine is next, and then I see Kathy, Adam, and Alma after that. Jasmine, would you
Yeah.
like to?
I apologize. There's a bit of a delay in what you say, Jonathan, and me actually hearing all of a sudden. But my question is pretty basic, pretty simple. I'm just curious about the social memory complex quo, which I understand is comprised of beings from 3 different densities. And I was just wondering if Jim has a sense of how those beings get on together, how they communicate, how they interact when their densities are different. In other words, there's me, I'm third density. There are my dogs, they're second density. And then I have a favorite tree just outside my window. And I find it very hard to interact sometimes and communicate on any sort of higher level with them. And I'm wondering if Jim knows how quo entities manage.
Actually, specifically, no, I don't. We do know that quo began after the raw contact was completed 2 years afterwards, and was supposedly at that time the entities of Haton, who were the first ones channeled by Carla and Don back in 1961. Well, actually, she didn't start channeling in 61. It was a little later. Everybody else was channeling in the group, but she didn't. So they were the fourth density of love and understanding. And then later on, Carla started channeling, and I think it was 79, she started channeling La Tui, the fifth density of wisdom. And then when the raw contact began, Ra was of the sixth density. So after the raw contact was over, Carla apparently wanted to channel the highest and best source of information of a spiritual nature that she could. That was her prayer every time before she channeled. So apparently these three entities got a conversation going between themselves and said, since this instrument wishes the highest and best, then we should allow a blending of those qualities of love, wisdom, and unity to be that which is channeled through her. So the ones of Haton would be kind of a foundation of love, which is what the creation is made out of, the one great original thought. And then those of La Tui would become the voice and channel the words that were in a way presented in their primal form or more specific form by those of Ra. Ra could not channel through her because that would be the trance channeling that was necessary to have Don and Carla and I there. So this is what we felt over the years was the way that they came together and the reason they came together. But as I have been working with quo channelings in the last little over a year, they started in 1986 in January. I'm in 1996 now. And only recently have I seen all three of them mentioned as being members of quo. So, and Jonathan and I have had some conversation about this, wondering, he was able to find later on, well, I found in 2004, the basic information about who they were, which is what I just told you. But he found some sources between 1996, where I am now, and 2004, where I already had that information. So at some point in there, it was determined and stated clearly that quo was Haton, La Tui, and Ra. But it's kind of taken a while to get there. It's exactly who they are.
As far as how they communicate, Jim, do you think it would be fair to say that starting at fourth density and continuing on through fifth and sixth, the veil of forgetting, which we have in third density, is thinned, if not removed, so that it's easier for those entities at different densities to communicate telepathically?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that would be telepathically. Yeah.
Wow.
I would imagine that also wouldn't be just telepathic words, probably images and concepts, and but as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I think, picture, they could probably communicate a book in a moment.
Right.
To each other, not to us.
What a great question, Jasmine. It never even occurred to me to ask that question. Did you have any follow-ups on that?
No, I didn't. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Well, thank you. Great question.
Yeah, thank you. Kathy, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question? And then we have Adam, Alma, and Quinita after that.
Yes, thank you. Jim, I'm curious about when did you yourself serve as a channel? I'm just wondering Did you channel yourself before you met Carla and Don? And if so, or when you started practicing serving as a channel yourself, I'm curious, how long did it take you to learn channeling?
Well, I don't remember exactly how long. I remember that I finally got in touch with Don and Carla when I was living in the woods of central Kentucky. And I would drive up every Sunday night to Louisville to their meditations over on Douglas Boulevard. And so that was 1979. And I have found my first channeling occurred in August of 1980. So somewhere in 79 and 80, must have taken me a little short of a year, or somewhere around a year, to learn how to channel. So no, I hadn't channeled anybody or anything before meeting Don and Carl. I didn't even really know that channeling existed. Well, I did too, because I had read Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts. And in fact, and that was while I was living on the land as well. I read that book. That was my first book of channeling. And later, when I was in the Raw Contact, we had our first 10 sessions. I sent them to Jane Roberts, and she turned us on to our first publisher, Whitford Press.
Okay, fascinating. Fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Wish I could be more specific.
No, it's great. Thank you.
Oh, it must seem like such a long time ago. Was it a struggle for you in the beginning? How long did it take you to feel like you were kind of comfortable, for lack of a better word, with it?
I also don't remember that.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I can tell you when I first started channeling is that using my going back to looking for quotes to support what I'm doing, my current raw channeling, and not raw channeling, quote channelings. I found that channeling, and it was mentioned there. This is my first channeling, so fortunately, the internet helped me discover that, but it hasn't let me know how difficult it was or how long it took.
How does it feel as you've been going through and reading the quote channeling sessions? I mean, starting in 86 all the way up to 1996 is where you're at. How did it feel? How does it feel reading those channelings that you were doing from that long ago? Does it seem like it kind of the same? You get the same feel for it reading it as you do now channeling, or does it feel different?
Well, that has a couple answers to it. I am surprised at how well I seem to have channeled back then, because I remember thinking at the turn of the century that I was a mediocre channel, and I would scratch my way to mediocrity, through all of those years of channeling. But now looking back on it, I think I did a better job. And also looking back on working with the quote channelings, at some point during the end of the channeling, the contact will be transferred to me to take the questions and answers most of the time, because Carla was not supposed to take questions and answers. That was something that had almost gotten her in a good deal of problems by our negative fifth density friend. When she was asked a question that she didn't know the answer to, she said, "I wish I was channeling raw." And her will was strong enough that she almost left her body and was displaced by our negative friend. So when it comes time for the contact to be transferred to me, then I get to listen to Carla's questions of quo that's channeled through me. I get to listen to her comments that she makes before or after the questions. And it's kind of like getting to hang out with her. And it's a great experience. I really enjoy it. So and as far as how channeling goes these days, I feel that I do okay. I think that our current group of Gary, Austin, Trish, and I have worked at it so long that probably Gary, Austin, and Trish are at least as good as I am. So I say to anybody who wants to come to our public channeling meditations, you'll have a good source of information if you want to ask questions.
Indeed. Yeah, and those are starting up again in about a week, am I remembering?
Right? A week from today.
Nice. Well, thank you for doing that, and thanks to Austin and Gary and Trish for that enormous service to others, that gift. Anyone who wants to attend public channeling sessions, I believe if you go to the LNL research page and find the contact email there, you can get in touch and see if you can make arrangements to be there. Otherwise, thank you for your question, Kathy. Adam, did you have a question? Would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yes, thank you, Jim, for your service and everyone for showing up here. Just gonna scroll up real quick. I was just wondering, Jim, about the positive emotions, if they can set us out of harmony or balance along the path, negatively affecting our polarization, if we're supposed to like not react to positive emotions outside of ourselves, if this balance is required to graduate, or if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, if I understand your question correctly, I think that what Ross suggested is that we should not try to control our response to emotions or control our emotions. We should let our emotions express themselves, and then we can balance them. Usually they suggested at the end of the day, when you're reviewing your day and how it went in meditation, then whatever positive or negative emotions you expressed, then you would intensify each one of those and then image the opposite of it occurring within your mind. And then when they're both about the same strength, really huge, then you accept yourself for having those emotions as a way for the creator to know itself and for you to know yourself and to know more about the creator, because the creator is what I'll call a 360-degree being. The creator is all things and all emotions. And our process of becoming the creator ourselves is to know ourselves through those emotions and accept ourselves. And if we can do that, eventually we can become that 360-degree being. But it may take a lifetime or two or more, or this might be the last lifetime. And if we can do it, then we will become one with the creator.
Thank you, Jim. So does that mean if you're not actively practicing that at night, or at some point during your day, even though you should be doing that, are you polarizing negatively, doing something you should be doing or should be sharing?
I don't believe you're polarizing negatively by not doing any balancing, or you're not polarizing positively. I think that the whole process of the balancing exercises is one that is meant to speed up your polarization in a consciously chosen way, usually positively. But if you don't do the balancing exercises, I think the same process will eventually happen. It'll just take a lot longer. It's called a work in consciousness. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Those are great questions, Adam. Thank you for asking. Alma, I believe you have 2 questions in the chat window. We have about 15 minutes left, so you probably have time to ask both of your questions. And then I see Quinita after that, and I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat window. So if you do have a question that you want to ask on the Zoom call, please make sure that you put it in the chat window so we make time for you. Otherwise, Alma, would you like to ask your first question?
Yeah, and I'm guessing, right? You're asking me because I'm Alina. I just want to make sure that there's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
I just wanted
Don't
to
have my
know.
reading glasses on. Sorry about
I am
that.
so totally okay to be Alma today. As a matter of fact, my grandpa used like 6 different names every time he called me, so we're good. But
We'll go
first
with Alina.
I am so appreciative of you even setting up and organizing this. I saw it yesterday and I'm like, I didn't even think I could ever have an opportunity. So Jim, it's just such a pleasure. I've read books twice now, and I feel like I've really immersed myself in the material. And there's tons of questions, but one I really been puzzled with is the children born in dual bodies, a third and fourth density. My mind, I can't wrap my mind around that concept. And if you can expand on that, and also, do you think now that the Earth is more in a fourth density, are those children, do you think, still born in dual bodies, or are they all more in a fourth density? I also kind of like expand on that a little more. Just my curiosity is just, there's so many questions around just this itself. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good question. Back during the raw contact, Ross suggested that planet Earth itself was already in the fourth density, but the population of the planet was scattered between the second, third, and fourth density potentials. Apparently, though, there are other third density planets like Earth that have had a graduation, and there are entities who have made the fourth density, and they are coming to Earth back during the raw contact. I think Ross said there were about 15 or 20,000 that have dual activated bodies, which means we have our first, second, third chakras or energy centers open and active. And if we can learn how to love others more than 51% of the time, then we can also be graduated. Well, these dual activated entities have already made the graduation on their planets, and they're coming here to be of service. They see all of the anger, confusion, and separation in our world today as a wonderful opportunity to be of service. And as Ross said, it's a privilege for them to come here early. So they're coming here in dual activated bodies. And I think that over the years, Carla did some research, and some people have written books about them. They're called the Crystal Children or the Indigo Children.
That's it.
And they have, they're called, well, I think somebody else used the term, but systems busters. They find new ways of doing things because they have a higher point of view. They may not even know themselves that they've already made the graduation, but they have that knowledge, that open heart, that desire to be of service to others. So they want to come here and help with all of the problems we've got on Earth, because it's like, grist for the mill, food for the tummy, in their spiritual tummies. To come here and to be in this problem situation that we all see ourselves in here on planet Earth. So those are the dual activated bodies. And I think that over the years, there have been some channelings from Quo that suggested that there's a great deal more now, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these dual activated entities that are here on Earth to respond to the call. And the call, of course, is the dissension and the anger and confusion that they feel and hear from the population in general on Earth.
Wow, thank you. I mean, you actually unlocked something that I had it as a confusion, and now that makes it absolutely totally clear. And then I also have another question about one of the times that Ra mentioned that as we transition, there will be some inconveniences for the planet. I think we're creating friction as us not being ready or not being conscious, right? And I'm not sure if I'm using the words, in a correct term to describe really how our humanity is here in our distortion or in oblivion, right? Preventing the Earth's smooth transition. If you can expand on that, maybe even add your, viewpoint on this.
Well, I believe the inconveniences are due to what you might call anger or bellicosity between different groups or countries that have been going on for thousands of years on the Earth. That anger is kind of like a heat, the anger of temper that has caused the planet to absorb that. The crust of the planet is absorbing that anger. And the reason there are inconveniences occurring is that the planet itself is moving into the fourth density vibrations. They are engulfing the planet at this time and have been doing so for quite some time. But in order for our planet Earth, our Mother Earth, to be able to blend with those vibrations, she has to slowly release the anger that is contained in her crust. And this comes out in volcanoes, hurricanes, earthquakes. And this is a slow release. And though they may be traumatic in the area where they occur, if they all happened at once, the planet would probably dissolve like Maldek did. So those are the inconveniences. They are inconvenient, but in the overall view of things, they're helping the whole population of the planet and the planet itself move into the fourth density with as little inconvenience as possible.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. And I just want to make sure whoever else had a question they can ask. And if there's time ever left, I could be asking you questions long.
That's great, Alina.
So
Yeah.
appreciate so much. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
great
Alina.
questions.
I had one follow-up clarification question, Jim. On this subject, do you think it would be fair to say that our burning of fossil fuels as a contributing factor to climate change could also be a contributing factor to those inconveniences that Ra and Kuo have spoken of?
Oh yeah, definitely. Climate change, too much CO2 in the air. I've seen so many license plates here in Kentucky. It said, coal keeps the lights on, and I'm thinking, yeah, it also keeps the hot air going, and hot air can hold more moisture. We have more climate change and disasters because of coal.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure all of those things are working together for sure. Quinita, did you have a question? And then I saw Keith had a question after that.
Yes, hi, thank you. I think it's my first time here, so thank you for putting this together. My question was about our capacity to reincarnate. As I'm guessing that as we progress through different densities, we don't have we are not humans I don't know how to explain it, but we don't have the human form anymore. So how are we able to, because how we're doing it right now is through birth giving and stuff like that. So what will be the way for us to come to the next density without, I guess there will be other ways, but I'm just curious to know if there will be any other way to which people will be able to reincarnate and stuff like that. If my question makes sense.
Well, if I understand your question correctly, the way we graduate is to be of service to others and intentionally, consciously attempt to be of service to others in whatever way we can. Sometimes it's by the vocation or the jobs that we have. Sometimes it's just spur of the moment. You're walking down the street, you see somebody that's dropped their groceries. As they come out of the store, you help them with them. You help your neighbors scoop the walks. It's a winter full of snow. We want to serve others more than we serve ourselves. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore ourselves, but when we have an opportunity to be of service to others, we take it and we be of whatever service we can. And I think that is something that is the hallmark of a conscious seeker of truth. That person knows that they are here to open their hearts in unconditional love, 51% of the time or more. And you wouldn't think that would be too hard, but apparently on this planet is pretty hard because Ra suggested, at least back during the Ra contact, that there were very few to harvest, very few that were conscious that was why they were here. Most thought they were here to make money, have a good family, a wonderful place to live, be well thought of in the community. But all of those are just tools that you can use to be of service to others. But it's the intention that is the most important thing.
Queen, were you asking about the nature of the body that we incarnate into, whether it's a physical body or
like how we, yes, and if we are not the body right now, since through how we incarnate right now is through birth, women giving birth and stuff like that. So if we are not humans anymore, like the beings we are right now, how are we incarnating in the next density, if that makes sense?
Well, I believe that we incarnate in the next density in the same shape and form of the human body that we have now.
Okay.
Just as the great ape is the body that we have now, that was chosen by our logos to house our consciousness as we move through the third density. Then since that is the basic body, it is the body of fourth and the higher densities, but it is, as I was mentioning earlier, more filled with light. even though it is less heavy in the terms of physical mass. So the body is same, but it has more light in it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I finally got your question straight with a little help from Jonathan.
It's a complicated question, and yeah, I appreciate your answering that. That's something have never quite been able to figure out, but I have just accepted that this is not the density of understanding. So I appreciate both the question and the answer. We have a question from Keith, and then a question from Joshua, and then I believe we're going to wrap it up for today. Keith, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Yes. Well, since this is my first time actually interacting with you, Jim, I have to just feel like I need to express gratitude just for all that you've done. I know it's been a labor of love. I can tell that every transmission I've seen from you. I know it's your passion, and you would do it even if nobody had heard about it. I just felt the need to express that gratitude to you. It's been really powerful element of my life. My question, and you know how it is, you start asking a question. Oh, wait a minute, that's a much better question I really want to ask you. But since I got this one on here, I'll ask it. I don't recall seeing in any of the transcripts any reference to other social memory complexes or other planetary bodies or societies that are part of the Federation. And I mean, not that I'm looking for a laundry list or anything, but I'm just curious as to whether that has ever been expressed, and also whether there are other federations that, yeah, there have been references to service to self federations, but not to service to others federations. So that's the core of my question.
Well, apparently there are other positive and negative confederations. The confederations of planets in the service of the infinite creator that has been part of our experience at LNL Research apparently has at least 500 different members. And we have been able to channel probably 8 or 10. As I mentioned in the beginning, Hatan and Latwi. There was also Oxal, Telon, Malka,
Latos, Lalima.
Oh yeah, Latos. Latos is the one that would usually help train new instruments or channels.
Interesting. Okay.
So there have been quite a few. There's some that we haven't channeled such a long time that I actually don't remember their names anymore. But yeah, there are a number of confederations, but our confederation is, and I don't really know. They mentioned they had 500 different groups in there, so we weren't sure if that was planets or larger groups of planets. Anyway,
right.
That's been our main source of information.
Okay. Thank you. I'm still, like everyone else, still getting through all the material, so I'll look for those things. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
It's a great question, Keith. Which does remind me, I mean, that is something I was kind of wondering about, Jim. The Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite creator, our confederation, they're not necessarily all located within our logos or galaxy. Some of them could be well coming from far beyond what we call our galaxy, correct?
I think that's possible, but I don't know if that's the case. I don't think we have information on that.
Otherwise, in just terms of thinking of Keith's question, if there's different federations, then do they all have their little jurisdictions in different part of the universe? Or I don't know.
New Year's Eve parties and things.
Yeah, that would be great. We have time for one more question, and that is from Joshua. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes. Good morning, all. Good morning, all of you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for all your work, and live and life. Bless all you. My question is, so I read somewhere, I'm not sure where I read this, but that in the works of channeling or mediumship or whatever, that when you're receiving your downloads, your messages, which I've been kind of practicing with for this year, and some very powerful things been happening. But anyway, that essentially that these messages can feel like they're coming from either your left or right or both sides of your head, and that depending on where the orientation of it feels like is coming from, that you can kind of tell whether it's a negative or positive energy. Like that a left would be more of a worrisome danger kind of message that's trying to, like Orion sort of deal, and then right side would be a more positive message, or it could be neutral, like both sides at the same time. That would be also positive. And so far, I found this to be all right, but I was wondering if there's any truth to this within your perspective.
As far as I know, the way you're talking about messages coming from the left to the right side, Ra mentioned that we had guides, 3 different guides. One was a male guide, one was a female guide, and one was an androgynous guide. And those could be correlated to the left and the right for male and female, and the androgynous over the heads that give a more balanced point of view. Now, if you're thinking that you're channeling some other entity or getting a message, I would suggest challenging them in the name of whatever you value most in your life. If you're a follower of Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or any other angel or archangel, or the concept of love and service to others, challenge them to be sure that you're getting a positive source of information, because there are a lot of entities in the universe. As Carla said, it's a crowded universe. And if you're living a life of serving others and you're creating a light in your life, which I imagine you are, then you do attract the attention of both positive and negative entities. Positive who want to support you in that journey that you're making and sharing with others, and negative entities that would like to take that light and the power of that light for themselves. So you need to be careful of what kind of information you're getting, and that challenging them is the way to do that. So that's a part of our channeling process here at LNL Research. We got this from Carla from years ago. She determined this was the way to go. So that would be my recommendation.
Jim, have you ever felt sensations coming into your left ear or your right ear? And have you ever felt any idea of whether they were of negative or positive polarity in one ear or the other?
Nothing that I could be sure of. I mean, Rob mentioned that sometimes a ringing in the ear, the right ear would be a sign from your guide of go ahead and do what you're doing or thinking. And the left side would be, no, you probably shouldn't do that. But I've never discovered that that's the way it works for me. I've never got any ringing that I could depend upon.
Thank you. That's a great question. Yashua, did you have any follow-ups on that, or are you good on that?
Not too much. No, but I did see that. I did read before that Carla, definitely make sure that whoever she was coming in contact with was in the name of Jesus. And and after I read that, I did start imploring that, and I found effect as well and stuff. So yeah, thank you very much. Bless you all. Bless you all.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, thank you everybody for your questions. And we've got a number of new faces and people joining us for the first time today. And I just want to say special thank you and welcome to everyone who's joining us for the first time. It was a really great session, great set of questions. And Mr. McCarty, we are almost finished, but as you know, we have one more little piece of business to take care of. And
what's that?
Is your pop quiz. For folks who are relatively new to the Law of One, pop quiz was a phrase that Carla often used to refer to the little tests that we get in life to see if we have in fact learned the lessons that we came here to learn in this incarnation. Pop quizzes are what we call the things that we do at the end of our little Zoom sessions, just to add a little bit of light and laughter and levity to our otherwise serious conversations. So Jim, as you well know from our friends in the Confederation, the universe begins and ends in mystery. But how much do you know about puzzles, and specifically crossword puzzles. Today, I'm going to ask you 3 multiple choice questions about crossword puzzles. See how many you can answer correctly. As always,
Carla
points
was
don't
taking
matter.
this test. She loved crossword puzzles. I'm no
Really?
good at it.
Oh,
she
I did
does.
not
She
know
was
that.
really good at it too.
Really? She did them every day?
Every day.
Ooh, I'll ask you some more questions about that. In the meantime, yes, as always, the points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. If you learned something new and interesting today, then hopefully you feel like you won. Folks who are on the Zoom call, feel free to put your answers in the chat window if you want. Folks who are watching on video, feel free to say your answers out loud and we will listen for you. Otherwise, Jim, are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready.
All right. Your first question is, in what year was the first crossword puzzle published? Was it A, 1913, B, 1923, or C, 1933?
B, 1923.
1923 is a good guess. The correct answer is actually 1913, believe it or not. The first ever crossword puzzle ran in the New York World magazine on December 21st, 1913. It was called a word cross puzzle at that time. The name crossword and the familiar grid shape came a little bit later after that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about Carla's crossword habits. Did she do like the New York Times puzzle or whatever she found in the local newspaper or what?
The local newspaper for sure. And then she had a book of crossword puzzles. And she would go through one book and get another book. So she was really good at it. She had a great vocabulary.
I'll bet that helped with the channeling. Now that explains a lot of the words that I've had to look up in the dictionary that I found in channeling sessions. How about you? Have you ever done crosswords? Any interest in crosswords?
Nope.
Me neither. Not my thing. It goes way past my attention span. Are you ready for your second question?
Oh, yeah.
All right. What is the word for someone who loves to do crossword puzzles? Is it A, cruciverbalist, B, crucilogoist, or C, crucilogophile?
I'll go with C, crucilogophile.
It would be the most logical one, but I did make up that word. And I did make up the B word too. Interestingly enough, the correct answer is A, cruciverbalist. Not that anybody cares, not that anybody's ever going to use that word again. Yeah. Are you ready for your last question?
Yeah, gonna try for a 1 for 3 here.
Yeah. No channeling your higher self, no asking social memory complexes for help on this one. Yeah. We are strictly behind the veil. In 1944, Leonard Daw, crossword puzzle editor of the Daily Telegraph, was investigated by the British intelligence agency MI5 for using which of the following words in a suspicious way a few weeks before the Allied invasion of Normandy. Was it A, Utah, B, Juno, or C, gold?
A, Utah.
Which one?
A, Utah.
Utah is 1/3 correct. The correct answer is all of the above.
Yeah.
As it turns out, in 1944, the answers Utah, Juno, and gold all appeared in Dawes's puzzles in the weeks leading up to the D-Day invasion, along with other answers including Omaha, Overlord, and Neptune, all of which were code names related to the impending D-Day invasion, which set off alarms when somebody picked up on this and notified the British Secret Service Agency. So yes, obviously they suspected that this guy was actually a spy sending coded information, top secret classified, to Nazis. As it turns out, Dawes was a British schoolmaster who wrote the crossword puzzles in his spare time for the newspaper. And he asked his students to help him come up with crossword puzzle words. And the students apparently were in the habit of hanging out in the nearby soldiers' camp during recess and overheard these words during conversations and brought them back to their teacher. So after investigation, Dawes was cleared of wrongdoing. But it is a fascinating story, and I only learned about this in writing up the pop quiz. Anybody who's interested, just Google up crossword puzzle D-Day invasion, and you'll see the whole story there. Jim, you were born in 1947, correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any recollections of World War II or D-Day invasion or anything like that? That was a ways before I was born.
No, I don't remember anything myself because the war was over then pretty much. But I remember that my mom and dad met in Carly, Nebraska, where my dad was a supply sergeant working for what then was the Air Force. And because she was working in a restaurant that he would frequent now and then with some of his buddies. And he met her there. And when his buddies would go there with him, he would say, let's see who can leave the largest tip. And so she made a lot of extra money because of that.
Wow.
So they were married in 1945 on January 10th, which was, I think, slightly after the end of the war.
Amazing. And am I remembering correctly that Ross said that fourth density officially started in 1936 or something?
Well,
Not that long before the Nazis invaded Poland?
I believe what they said in relation to 1935 or 6 was that the fourth density had begun 45 years earlier than at the point where we were channeling Ra, which in 81 would have been about 1935. So the fourth density started then. And
isn't that intriguing to think about how that transition, I don't know, how all of World War II and Nazis and everything that came after that could be part of this, I don't know what you call it, increased polarization as we move into fourth density?
Yeah.
It's a trip. Well, Jim, I really wanted to thank you once again for giving your time and yourself to be here and hang out with us and answer questions. It's been a joy as always. Did you have any last thoughts or reflections before we say goodbye for this time?
Well, I always enjoy our questions and answers because everybody here has such great questions. And I try to come up with answers, and I do my best. But what I feel the most pleasure and joy of is feeling the open-hearted nature of the love that comes from everybody here. And I think that love is flowing through everybody from the one creator to support groups like this that want to study more about what our purpose is in this life, in this third density illusion, how to move beyond it. But before we move beyond it, the way we do it is to share love with each other and learn how to love each other. And this has always been a very loving group. And I thank you all for your open-hearted love. I give it right back to you and I love you all.
Oh, we love you so much, my friend. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your love and your wisdom with us. And that is a great reminder that there are lots of Law of One study groups out there. If you go to the L&L research website and go find Connect and then go to that list of study groups that I showed on the first screen at the beginning of this Zoomcast, you'll find there are many, many different study groups in North America and beyond. And each one has a different vibe to it, and find one that suits your vibe. And as we have heard many times, those of like mind seeking together shall more surely find. Someday I'll remember that quote exactly. I'm always butchering it up whenever I try to remember. Anyway, Jim, thank you so much for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all the friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. For everyone who joined us on the Zoom call this morning, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. For those of you watching this on video in the near or distant future, thank you for all you do and continue to do in service to others. We're sending you our love and receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator, Adonai. Namaste.
Have a great rest of your day, folks. Love you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Be blessed.